I've got two dogs sitting beside me. They never, ever wonder if they're going to fail at something. They're going to go chase a squirrel today. They're not worried about if they're going to fail or not. They're not worried about if they're going to fail in their mother's eyes. They don't have that. This is all human-based.
Let me invite you to sit back, drop your jaw, tongue, and shoulders, take a deep breath, and if you wish, close your eyes for a moment. Feel the beat within. In a few seconds, you just jumped from your head to your heart and felt the beat within, opening up to receive even more value and fulfillment of your business and life. And today's episode. I'm your host, Nico van der Venne, confidant to successful CEOs, founders, and who are striving to achieve everlasting fulfillment. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I have a small request. If you love this episode or any episode that we've already recorded, please leave a 5-star review and share it to at least one person that might be interested in the subject. Thank you for your support in any case, and let's get started. First, I will introduce our next guest, Betsy Pepine. Betsy is a best-selling author of Breaking Boxes, Dismantling the Metaphorical Boxes That Bind Us. Her brokerage, Realty, has been named as a 5,000 Inc. fastest growing private company in the US multiple times and has earned spots in the top 50 Florida companies to watch for the Trend Best Companies lists. Additionally, the Wall Street Journal has consistently recognized Betsy's real estate as one of the top producing real estate companies. Wow, Betsy, that's seriously a lot of things there that you are running and having fun with and enjoying your days with, I imagine.
Yes.
So you're a best-selling author, and I love the story that you wrote to me about how you came to writing that best-selling book, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how you got to that point.
Well, I'm 56 years old, and I was several years ago, despite feeling like I had successful businesses and a great family, I felt discontent. And it really took me about a year to even admit it to myself, because I didn't feel like I had the right to be unhappy. We see so much in this world, and I'm very cognizant of the fact that I'm very privileged in so many ways. And so it was really difficult for me to even admit it to myself. But after I did, I went on a journey of exploration to figure out what the source of discontentment was. And, I did journaling, meditation, yoga, therapy, EMDR work, bioenergetic work, a whole host of different modalities to figure out what was the underlying source of discontentment. And what I found was that the common thread was these times and periods in my life where I felt confined by expectations of my family of origin, of society, of my industry, of my religion, of my gender, I've been even expectations of myself. So it's not just the external forces at work, and feeling like, I don't know if do you have Amazon in Belgium?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So if you've ever had the misfortune of purchasing a bed mattress from Amazon, it arrived at your doorstep in a box. And the first time I did that, I thought, oh goodness, they sent me the wrong thing. How could this mattress be in this box? And I lugged the box inside, put it in my living room, open it up, and lo and behold, 2 days later, the mattress has expanded to the size that it was designed to be. And I felt like I was that mattress in that box, yet to be opened, and just not being able to be and live my true potential because I felt weighted down by these expectations and standards that didn't feel in alignment with who I was born to be. So I started journaling about those stories. I started talking to others about my stories and saw that this seems to be a universal issue and everyone's on the spectrum. And there was a lot of people who didn't know how to get out of boxes. And so I wrote the book in the hopes of helping just one person. If one reader read the book, identified with a box that they may be in their own lives, and helping them have the courage and taking the steps to gracefully exit out of a box that no longer served them, then the effort will have been worth it. So that's the genesis of the book.
Hey, wow. It's a beautiful, I love the comparison with this. I can see it lively growing in a living room.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is something very prevalent, I would say. There's a lot of people out there who, have layers and layers and layers of masks on, and I see that you kind of describe it more as living in a box. Mm-hmm. Me and my partner as well, we discuss these things very, very clearly and a lot basically about how we grew up in a certain environment, and not only with our parents, but also friends and just a culture where I live. I've mentioned this before in the podcast where my country, so I live in the Dutch-speaking part of Belgium. So you have three languages basically, but the Dutch-speaking one. And we've been conquered by so many parties. So we've been conquered by Holland, by France, Napoleon, and all those different influences, which makes that the people here are very, how do you say, we adapt. We adapt in silence and we complain amongst ourselves. But we won't, stand up and make an effort in changing things very drastically. We do it under the radar. Mm-hmm. So sometimes as a business owner, when you talk to somebody, you have to know all these different layers that are underneath of what they want to actually achieve. They might not even tell you until they, start to trust you, and all those layers. You break through the boxes, I would say, as in comparison to what you're saying. Yeah. And it's so funny sometimes that when I talk to people from abroad, and I really mean like you guys from America or people from the UK or Australians, or there's a complete different way of looking at things. You don't like something, you do something about it. Mm-hmm. That's basically what kind of happens. And I think in business, like an entrepreneur, you need to switch so quickly sometimes with your business because you have to adapt, and that's breaking through a lot of barriers in the world. So, what's your experience as a real estate expert on these things? Do you counter that as well in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Every day. As an entrepreneur, I mean, in real estate, I have one of my businesses is a brokerage, and the model is that you have agents that work for you and not for you, under you, because you can't work, you have to be under a broker. So I'm a broker and I have agents that work under my brokerage, and 99.9% of them are independent contractors. And so they get a commission, and when they sell something, they get a commission for selling a house. That's how the model works in our country. Well, what I realized, I've been in real estate for 20 years, what I saw when I would interview candidates who wanted to get into real estate, there's a segment of the population that can't do that. They can't go from a salaried position with benefits to a commission-based industry. And if they could, it would have to be over a long period of time. And what I found when we tried that, a lot of times it doesn't work because real estate, it is difficult. It's easy to get a license, but it's work to make it a living. And so sometimes it's too easy to go back to that primary source of income. So what I saw was a lot of people not making it that could be great in real estate if they could stomach the commissions. At the beginning, the first couple of years, it's a little bit, like a roller coaster. So we created a salaried agent position, clearly outside the box of thinking in our industry, but it solved the problem of people who couldn't do that on their own. And it's a beautiful model, and it serves just a niche of people, great people that you saw great potential. Now they can thrive because you've created a solution to their problem. So that's been great, and clearly definitely outside the box. And a lot of people think, oh, it's crazy. You're salarying them. They might not sell anything. But if you know what you're looking for and you can recognize talent, it's a pretty safe bet. So that's one example. Gender, we come across gender in our industry. And as an entrepreneur, a female entrepreneur, even little things like we'll have owners call and they'll only want, and I've never had somebody say, I only want a male realtor, but I have had, and it's not like every day, but it's not uncommon for an owner to say, I'm requesting a female realtor. And the reason they give me is they feel, and I don't know why, that they are better at selling a house. They understand the need of the house, that the role that a home plays in the family system. So they want a female realtor. So that was interesting to me in the industry. I don't really like that. I mean, I've got great male realtors in our brokerage, so I don't agree with that. But if they're, owners only do this a couple times in their life, and if they've had a bad or a good experience once or twice, then that can set their opinion. I see, we sell hundreds of houses a year, so I see that is not true in the larger population. But if you have a one-off, maybe that's true. So I see it there. I see it as an entrepreneur where I have been given, positions. I remember vividly being invited to be on a bank board, which is something I really wanted to do and have that experience. And after I accepted, I was blatantly told I was given the position because I was a female, and the board consisted of middle to older white men, and they needed diversity. And I understand the pros and cons, but it was, I think they didn't understand what an insult that was to me, because I worked so hard to build these companies, but I wasn't being given this position because of that. I was given this position because of something I had no control over. So yes, I see it all the time, every day. And I think once people are aware of the boxes, I mean, they're just everywhere. And to be aware means that you recognize there's choices. I think like the example with the agent, it's a lot of agents and brokers never considered that option of a salaried agent. So they didn't even know they were in a box because they didn't think about, well, wait a minute, are there other choices here that we could explore? So I think that's one reason why some people stay in boxes, is they don't even know they're in a box, and you can't get out of a box you're not aware that you're in.
Yeah.
So that's step one, is creating awareness that you might be in a box that's not serving.
Yeah, it's one of those things where one fish tells another, how's the water? Like, what water? What water?
Yes.
And once you start realizing that you're actually in, for us then in a bubble of air that's only like a layer thick, protecting us from a immense, vast environment of vacuum.
Right.
It's just, start realizing, wow, okay, there's something going on here that I
Right.
need to look into.
Yeah.
I find the idea of what you did with giving the salary, and especially the nuance of what are you looking for. There's a whole discussion going on, for years about universal income. And I've noticed that when I started my business, I started it really smack 1 month before COVID hit the world. And so, full agenda, empty agenda.
Yeah.
And I'm still around, so I must have done something right. But the thing is, what I've noticed was that there was a lot of people who had these ambitions to start their business out of an idea or an ideal of helping others. But of course, one of the biggest struggles they find is, getting that basic income just to bread on the table, basically, and take care of their family.
Right.
And I find indeed a difference where you're actually working with people that you know they're going to achieve what they want because the drive is so high and the passion is there that there is a way to to confirm that that income is something that you need to give to them. It's a beautiful breakthrough. I find that very interesting. So what was the actual effect that you had once the first person, for instance, got that offer from you? What was their first impression? What do you experience?
Oh, I mean, even now, I mean, they're elated because it's just rather unheard of in our industry. Like and they'll say, I didn't even know that was an option. Absolutely. We want to create options for everybody. And then we have on the other end of the spectrum, if you get to the end of your career and you want to take it easy, but independent agent doesn't really sell their business. How can they create an income for themselves? Well, they can then enter a referral program where they put their license in as inactive, but they can still collect a referral fee, and then they give us their referrals. So we really try to solve the problem, not the problem, but the gap with either agents or our buyers and our sellers.
So in your experience, I want to jump into something else. The path you took towards the book and the first steps of awareness. What were at that time the impacts that you were making because of, you being unhappy, basically, finding out that you're actually not supposed to be unhappy because you're privileged, but you are a business owner at that point. What happened to your business once you started realizing that this was an issue?
I think I'm trying to, this has been a while, so it's hard for me to go back. I hope that the culture in my business, and I believe it has become more authentic and people feel safer in expressing their emotions, feelings, discontentment, and that we created space for that so that they're happier. That is my hope. I've also brought in people in the organization to help me have more free time to focus on things that are truly my unique ability and where I want to go in my future, and to remove the things that don't serve, like I shouldn't be doing. They're not my unique ability. I don't enjoy them. They bring me down, but there's other people in this world that they wake up every day wanting to do that. So I've added people to the organization. So people are on the right bus, in the right seats, working in their unique ability, which I think makes everybody happier and thus more successful.
That's nice to hear. Because I focus with what I focus on is founder syndrome and CEO disease. And one of those symptoms or what I just, put towards those is becoming micromanager, in essence, to a point where you're actually pushing your people so hard towards what you yourself as a founder or a CEO want, and reducing the possibility to be opinionated or to feedback. 360-degree feedback is something that I've always loved in my career. I've had it with my managers. I've had it with people that work with me. I want to know when something's wrong. So that's always beautiful to hear that you've come to that point where as an owner, okay, tell me what's going on so I can fix it, so we can, optimize the world that we live in for everybody that's there. In your environment, do you see other founders or C-levels or whomever that at this point you think, wow, they really need to, they need a wake-up call?
I'm very intentional about who I surround myself with. And so I don't know, because I don't surround myself with those people. I have a group that I live in Florida. I fly to Chicago every quarter, and I surround myself with people who have the mindset that I have, and also my future self. So I don't know. I don't know what those people do.
Well, that's good news. Honestly, that's good news, because then indeed you're really in an environment that it vibes with you, and you can grow from there. Because I see a lot of business owners that are still struggling with the environment that they're in. And coming back to what you're saying about the boxes, to me, it's kind of reflection. It's kind of a reflection of the fact that they themselves are still in that box, being maybe affected by micromanagement, being a little bit on the rude, on the rough side in leadership, as I call it sometimes. But if you're kind of away from that environment, it does change you yourself very much. And I think that's something that a lot of business owners need to become aware of who they are in their business. Also affects everything and every step that their employees do towards their customer.
Right.
It's a kind of a chain reaction.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my customers are my agents and staff. They are not the buyer and seller of real estate. As long as I take care of my internal customers, we're fine. Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, I remember a couple of things from, I think it was the book Think and Grow Rich. That was one of these examples of, I think it was a salesman, clothing salesman, that it was discussing. One side was this guy really, trying to sell every little piece of clothing instead of asking questions to the customer. What are you really here for? And who are you? And what's the effect? And so on.
Yeah.
And then what I loved was indeed that the store owner was the one who also asked their employees the same questions. Like, who are you? What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? And so on. And it's kind of, that, like I said, it's a chain reaction.
Yes, absolutely.
So is there any message or any specific thing that you want to throw out there to the listeners might help them?
Well, I think for me, when I was going through it, and it's still a journey, I haven't mastered, I find myself in boxes still. Yes. But for me, so now when I feel resistance, or I feel that I might be in a box, but I'm not exiting, I'm very intentional about figuring out why. And what's helped me is understanding, for me, there's usually 3 reasons. And it's fear-based. So either fear of failure, fear of the unknown or change, or fear of loss. And so I have worked on each of those. And so for me, the first one is it doesn't really impact my life anymore. Fear of failure. I have come to realize that failure is another box, and it's a box that we label some of our outcomes in there. But we don't need to do that. I've got 2 dogs sitting beside me. They never, ever wonder if they're going to fail at something. They're going to go chase a squirrel today. They're not worried about if they're going to fail or not. They're not worried about if they're going to fail in their mother's eyes. Like they don't have that. This is all human based. And I say to myself, what is worst case scenario? And worst case scenario, something doesn't go like I wanted it to go. So I have to pivot. Okay, I can pivot. And I get to take with me some lesson and learning and carry that with me for the rest of my life that will help me later. That's worst case scenario. That sounds okay. And studies have shown worst case scenario happens 3% of the time. Okay, so what are we worried about? I mean, it's crazy. So that one, it doesn't bother me at all anymore, but I do think it does impact other people. But if they actually thought about it, they realize how almost silly it is. So fear of failure, fear of change. We are humans. We are creatures of habit. I see it even in real estate, where a family's moving because of a great thing, a new birth, a job promotion, still resistance, because we don't like change. And so to me, it's like a muscle. And the more I can expose myself to change, the unexpected, things that are uncomfortable, I get more comfortable being uncomfortable, if that makes sense. And so I do that on purpose. I try the habit tracker. I track habits every day and then I move those usually 6 to 8 habits actually maybe 10 habits every month. And then the next month, if the habit has become ingrained, I drop that off and add a new one. But one of the habits that I track is, have I exposed myself to something new or uncomfortable today? And it may be the cold shower I take every morning. That may be the only thing that's made me feel uncomfortable that day, but I do it every day because I want to make sure I've put myself in a state of uncomfortableness at least once that day. So that to me is a muscle that we can work on. And then the fear of loss, that's a real one. I mean, that's a real one that we have to address. And usually the loss is either a loss of, status within our social community, loss of social connection, or financial loss. So the status one, that's ego. That's Betsy, your ego is getting in the way of what you want. Put your ego on the shelf and move forward. That's what I tell myself. And that is very helpful to me. The social connection one, it's like chess. Once a piece is moved on the board, the game has changed. You are going to upset, offend, hurt people by your move. You just are. Again, people don't like change. It threatens them. That's okay. Understand that, expect that, and then shore up the relationships in your future vision. You're moving towards something. So you have new relationships that you can start shoring up because you understand that some relationships are going to be released. And that is okay. There are necessary endings. Relationships to me teach us something about ourselves. And some relationships they outgrow. We've learned the lesson and we're ready to move on. No hurt feelings. It's okay. It's served its purpose. It's almost like pruning a bush. You have to prune it back to grow. So that one, that's how I address that one. And then the fear of financial security generally roots its head when you're trying to shift careers and move into a box that you feel like is going to be serving you. I do feel like that one has been reduced a bit with just time because, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when I got into real estate, we didn't have the gig economy. You couldn't drive for Uber and Amazon. Very few people, if any, very few people were working from home and, just setting up shop online. I mean, we just have so many options now that we did not have before to supplement our primary income. So that one, I think, is one that's probably not as threatening to people's exits of boxes that no longer serve them. So that's kind of, when you ask me what message would I have for the audience, it would just be to really understand. I write it down. Like if I feel resistance, what am I resisting? And really breaking it down and seeing how I can tolerate that so that I can move forward.
Yeah, I can imagine. I actually, the problem that I have, I write it down first, and you start reflecting on it. And usually it's kind of, the problem itself has the solution within it.
Mm-hmm. And I love writing it down. It makes things so less scary. I think when things are just in your head, they just take a life of its own.
Fantasy.
But it's crazy. But you write it down and you're like, okay, that's manageable.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. No, cool. Well, that's great, Betsy. Thank you very much for those beautiful insights. So where can people, connect with you, find you?
Sure. So I have a website, betsypepine.com. I'm on all the social channels at my name, Betsy Pepine. The book is available on Amazon and in all major book retailers online. It's also available on my website. And then I do have a companion course coming out this spring, and that will also be available on my website.
Great. Okay, super. Well, I'll put your connections and links in the show notes in any case.
Thank you.
It's always easy for people to click right now and go from here to your website and check out.
Oh, well,
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And for our listeners, thanks again for listening to The Everlasting. And have a
Thank you for listening to the Everlasting Podcast. Let me leave you with a few questions to answer in the comments. How do you see the different topics we discussed during this interview? What are your thoughts? What stood out for you? Let us know in the comments or just send us your feedback. We launch new episodes weekly. Don't miss any by ensuring you are subscribed to the show. Click the follow button now. We depend on the organic growth of the podcast to inspire more and more people. So by giving us a 5-star review and sharing this episode with at least one of your friends who might be interested in the subject, you will significantly help more people become inspired. But more than anything, I am grateful to you for taking the time to listen to the show. If you are also a successful CEO, founder, or entrepreneur who has inspiring words to say, feel free to contact us for an interview at contact@nicovandevenne.com. Thank you for listening. We will see you again soon with more inspirational conversations on achieving everlasting fulfillment.